Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is going to be the update to the Lich build, the Necromancer for the Markarth DLC. This is a Magicka build. This is focused on both single target and area of effect, capable of all content. And if you don't want to go into trials and such, you don't have to, because you can build this just out of dungeons if you prefer. Everything is going to be explained, including in the new rotation, and we're going to go over the changes to major vulnerability, which is a big plus to the Necromancer in this particular update. So if you want to see more of this, stay tuned. Everything is going to be explained.
How did you do that? How did you do that?
So, first of all, we're going to go into the stats. We are using flat food at the moment, which is max health, max magicka, but you can change this if you prefer. You can use the citrus fillet stuff, which will give you more recovery, and it'll give you health recovery, but your flat stats will go down. So remember, your damage will go down per skill, but you can use the skills more often. Or you could use Witch Mother's Brew as well, which is a bit cheaper to use. So you've got this stuff here, or this. Both of those are good recovery options. Or the flat stuff for more flat damage, but what you'll need to do, of course, is you'll have to consider that you will have less recovery, so you need those buffs and bonuses from your group to give you more sustain. You'll have to take synergy and all that good stuff, or utilize heavy attacks. If you use the flat stuff, you have 36.9k max magicka and 18.7k max health. If you use the other stuff, you'll be a bit less there, but again, your recovery will be up. We've got 2.8k spell damage, but that goes up quite a lot. Once we're in combat, once we've got a lot of buffs and bonuses running, that goes way up beyond 4k, and if we're using another option, which we'll get to in the gear, your max magicka will actually go up to almost 39k, and your spell damage in combat will go not far short of 5k as well. So there are options, but again, this is flat stats. Not everything is shown straight away on your stat sheet. Some stuff needs to be activated, some stuff is hidden in the background. We've got 50% crit chance, but that goes up to 56 if you're fully trial buffed. And we're sitting on quite low resistances, so you do have to be careful. The Necromancer doesn't have any passive resistance bonuses. They have max health instead, which we'll get to later. But if you want to put on a resistance buff, again, once we get to the skills, that will be explained. There's an option for it. But if you have a Warden in your group, they can use Frostcloak, and they can give you that major resolve anyway, so you're then safe. Solo, however, you might want to swap some stuff out. 64 points into max magicka, and of course the Shadow Munderstone. You do not have to be a vampire. I wouldn't recommend it for this particular build for any of the skills, except if you want the sneak passive, which you need vampire stage 1 for. If you want stage 1, that's fine. Bear in mind, you might have to heavy attack a bit more often than you would normally like to. Now we're going to go into the skills. Everything will be explained, where they come from, what to morph them to, how they work, and all that good stuff. But then later on, we'll get into the rotation. But this is a little different to last time. Only a little bit. Stalking Blastbones, first of all, is in the Gravelord skill line. Second ability to unlock starts off as Blastbones, morph it to Stalking Blastbones. This will raise a skeleton, and after 2.5 seconds, it will jump at the target and blow up and do flame damage in area of effect. Yes, it does fire damage. Yes, it can apply a burning status effect if you're lucky, but this is an area of effect ability. It hits a single target, but it explodes in the area of effect. So bear that in mind for later. We are going to explain passives. When this is active, while it is alive, before it explodes, if you like, this will actually be grayed out. You won't be able to cast the skill. You can only use the skill when it is highlighted again, or when it is solid, if you like. So the trick to this is the duration of it is roughly enough time for you to light attack skill, and then it will pop again. Even at range, because at long range, this can still be fired, but it will still jump to the target, and it will close that timer gap. So what you need to do really inside your rotation is a Blast Bones, then light skill, Blast Bones, light skill. And you can keep up that repetition or rotation if you like, and it's quite smooth. But you will have to pay attention to this because sometimes they get a little bit lost. Now, while at range or even close, this will jump at the target and it will hit it for the same sort of timers. But if the target is running away, the skeleton has to do more work. So the longer the target is running away, the longer the skeleton is chasing them, and that means the more damage will be done in area of effect when it actually finally catches the target. That mostly happens in PvP, where people run around rocks in circles and claim skill. Yeah, that will get you killed. And in PvE, if the enemies do tend to run away, or they're trying to chase someone, or maybe someone in your group is just running across the room and the enemy that you're trying to hit is chasing them, this will obviously mean that the skeleton has to run for longer, and therefore it will go boom. But if it's just a static target, you're pretty much going to get the original hit, not the extra. However, that's an important thing to know. If something is running away, take advantage of it. Also, most important thing, this drops a corpse on the ground. The Necromancer takes advantage of corpses. Surprise, surprise. You need to pay attention to that. Next is Skeletal Arcanist, or Arcanist, however you want to pronounce it. Fourth ability in the same skill line, starts off as Skeletal Mage, morph it to Skeletal Arcanist. Now, this will raise a pet out of the ground for 16 seconds. It will do lightning damage to the closest target, and this happens every 2 seconds. But it is also considered as area of effect. So while it does pick a target, it will splash damage everyone nearby. So it's an area of effect shock hit every 2 seconds. Keep this up inside your rotation. If you overlap it, it's not the end of the world, because this doesn't have a scaling effect where it gets stronger and stronger and stronger like the physical one does, but make sure it isn't down for any period of time if you can help it. Also, if the target dies, or the skeleton dies rather, you will actually create a corpse on the ground. This can be utilized as well. So, as you can see here, when this blows up, it drops a corpse. When this dies or gets recast, then you will also get a corpse. 2 corpses there. Handy. How handy? You need this. Ha ha ha. So, this is in the same skill line again. Gravelord again. Shock and Siphon, 5th ability unlock, starts off as Shock and Siphon, of course. Morph it to Mystic Siphon. This will actually consume a corpse. You need a corpse to apply this. And it's free. Not only that, when you activate it for 12 seconds, it will do damage over time, doing shock damage to the target and area of effect close to the target, so wherever the corpse is. And there is a beam that comes from it as well. That beam also does damage to any enemies that are in it or pass it, and you can go as far back as 28 meters with this beam and intentionally get enemies inside of it. So if you move around with this beam and cross enemies' paths, they will take damage as well. Now, also, while this is active, you restore 1295 Magicka over the 12-second period as well. So it's a 5-meter radius area of effect ability from the corpse. It's area of effect across the beam as far as any enemies are concerned that cross it. And it does a stupid amount of lightning damage. Very, very nice indeed. And one more bonus, while it's on your bar, all damage you do is increased by 3%. These skills are nuts, but they do synergize up against each other. You got a pet all the time that does damage in area of effect. You have blast bones that does damage in area of effect, plus drops a corpse. Both of these drop a corpse. And this one needs a corpse to fire because it's free and does shock damage in area of effect as well. The more targets, the better. It's uncapped. Next up is Ricochet's Skull. Now this one is technically direct damage. Now this fires a flaming skull at the enemy, and every third cast of this ability deals 20% more damage and will bounce 2 times to other nearby enemies within an 8-meter radius. So although this is a direct ability, it's not counted as area of effect at all. Every third cast will hit multiple targets. So this is a very useful spammable that we will put inside of our rotation while making sure we're on top of blast bones as much as possible. So keep the pet active, keep your dot active once you've got a corpse down, use blast bones and spam this in between. Rotation will be explained later, don't worry. Inner Light is very simple. This is in the Mage's Guild skill line. You need Mage's Guild 2 to unlock this. Starts off as Mage Light, morph it to Inner Light. Quite simply, this sits on your bar. It gives you max Magicka, which increases your overall pool by 5%, and it will also give you Major Prophecy, increasing your crit rating. So keep this on the bar, don't activate it, you're absolutely fine. However, there is a passive for this that I will go over later that you can utilize if you're low on Magicka or if you're in a big cluster of ads and you want to take advantage of it. Save that one for passives. We'll go over that later. But there is a very useful reason to apply this in very rare situations. For now, leave it there. Don't touch it. Now, Shoot and Start, of course, is also from the Mage's Guild skill line. You need Mage's Guild level 10 for this, which is unfortunate. That takes some time. If you don't want Shoot and Star on here, you don't have to. This is just here mostly for stats, or if there's an AoE pull and you want to hit all of them at once and get loads and loads of ulti back for the privilege. Because the Shooting Star morph of this does flame damage on initial hit, it does damage in area of effect, it knocks stuff down and stuns stuff, but every single target hit will give you 12 ultimate back. So although it costs 200 to cast, if we hit 10 enemies, we got 120 back straight away. Very useful in an oh shit situation. Ideally, you want to use your Necro ulti or your Destro ulti, but if you do have Shoot and Star, it's nice to have on the bar for passives. Again, passives will come to you later, but if you don't have this right now, you want to put Malcolm on the front bar, which is also in the Gravelord skill line, much like the rest of the bar, and this is Frozen Colossus, Morph to Glacial Colossus. This will smash the ground 3 times. All enemies in area of effect will be hit with frost damage, which hits really, really bloody hard. And they'll be stunned for 4 seconds after the last smash. Also, this will deal a debuff, if you like, to all enemies caught. And it will last 12 seconds. And it will increase all damage that they take by 10%. Now, Major Vulnerability, the only way to apply it is from this one skill. Either morph is fine, but this is the only skill in the game that can do it. It used to be a 30% increase to all damage done to the target. Now it's 10. That sounds like a massive nerf. However, prior to this, it used to last a small amount of time and have a big invulnerability phase. So you had to be very clever about when you do or don't cast it. Now, as you can see, there is no cooldown. So although the damage output to the targets is less, the duration is infinite. It lasts 12 seconds from us, but if you have multiple Necros in your group and you slap them all on top of each other, you can have 100% uptime now on Major Vulnerability. So over time, considering the vulnerability phases before, it's relatively the same, but instead of having to hold back on your ultimates now, you can literally spam them and just keep them going, get the extra damage in, instead of just waiting and not sure when to use it. You can utilize this a lot more than you could before. Very nice skill. Put it on your front bar if you don't have Meteor or Ice Comet. Use it as much as you can. It's on the back bar usually anyway, so we'll kind of skip ahead of some of the skills here and go to the ultimate. But on the back bar, you do have another choice. You can, of course, use the Destro ulti, which is only applicable to you if, this one here, Elemental Rage in the Destruction Staff skill line, if someone else already has really good uptime on Major Vulnerability. You are the only class in the game that can do this. Your group wants Major Vulnerability. It's for the whole group, not just you. Those targets all take more damage because of this skill. If someone else has it covered, Destro ulti on the back bar. If they don't have it covered, make sure you're the one that's using it. However, since we're here, we'll go over the Destro ulti. This needs to be Elemental Storm morphed into Elemental Rage. This will actually do more damage than the other versions of it, more than the Lightning, more than the Ice. And of course, it doesn't last as long as the Lightning, but because it's got the extra damage, that kind of plugs the gap a bit. Use this in big ad pools or on single target bosses, entirely up to you if this is covered. Just bear in mind, of course, prior to this, no respecting Necromancer would ever not use the Necromancer ulti. Most people would be using that to bring that to the group. But since it's got 100% uptime now, as long as your group is paying attention to it, you can get away with the Destro ulti from time to time. So again, the choice for the ultimates is actually yours, but Glacial Colossus all the time, unless it's covered. Fiery Rage if it is covered. Ice Comet on the front bar, or Meteor. Harness Magicka, of course. This is in the light armor skill line. This is Annulment morph it to Harness Magicka. This is very simple. It's a damage shield. If you don't want to die, put this on and it will take damage in the shield rather than your health until the shield is gone, whether it be the timer or the amount of damage you've taken. Also, if you take magical damage, you will actually get back magic up to 3 times as long as the shield persists. This is capped, however, at your max health, 50% of it. So the more health you have, the higher this can go, but you've got to have the magic pool to push it in the first place. For us, it's around 9.5k. Once you've got buffs and bonuses from your group, that can push up to about 10. Only use it when you need to. Don't spam it because you'll run out of juice real quick. Unstable Wall of Elements is very simple. This is in the Destro skill line. Second ability to unlock starts off as Wall of Elements, morph it to Unstable Wall of Elements. We are using a Flame Staff on the back bar, and for using fire with this skill, we actually get a benefit from it. We have more damage if the enemies are burning. So if we apply a burning status effect to them, or even if somebody else does, as long as they're burning inside this wall, they will take 20% extra damage for the privilege, as you can see here. Now, when it ends, it will burst, and it will do area of effect fire damage. So if you activate it again over top of an old one, you'll get that burst, or if it just runs out, you'll get that burst. So if you overlap and your rotation is very, very clean, and you kind of fire one on top of the other just before it finishes, you get the explosion. And if you don't and you're a little bit slower, you still get it. It's fine. Necrotic Potency is next. Now this can be swapped out, of course, if you choose to, but I really, really wouldn't. If you want to, you can put Inner Light on both bars. You can have it here and you can have it here. Or if you don't need the damage shield, you can just put it here anyway and benefit from both skills. But I would recommend keeping this on at all times. This is in the Bone Tyrant skill line. Starts off as Bitter Harvest, morph it to Necrotic Potency. Very simple skill. While slotted, you take less damage while you're on this bar. And if there's a body on the ground, you scoop it up for free. And you can scoop up 6 bodies at once. Each body you scoop up will give you 800 health every 1 second for 2 seconds. And they stack duration-wise. So it's not 800 health 6 times, meaning a massive heal. It's 800 health for 2 seconds, and then another body is 800 health a second for 2 seconds, and so on and so forth. It extends the duration of it. But the ultimate does stack. So if you pick up 6 bodies, you get 36 ultimate. You pick up 1, you get 6, and so on and so forth. So if there's a group of 12 enemies, you have to press this twice. This is your ulti builder. You can smash ultis out really, really fast, especially in really big and fast ad pulls. So while you may be doing half your rotation, just keeping your dots down with a couple of spam balls and trash is dying left, right, and center, make sure you're spamming this occasionally to pick up all those dead body ultimate regen opportunities, if you like, because you'll be able to use this or this much more often than everybody else. It's very nice skill indeed. It's not strictly inside our rotation, although you can fit it in, but keep an eye on the floor. If there's bodies that you don't need for this because it's already running, use this. Barb Trap is on our back bar. Used to be on the front, now it's on the back. Now, this is in the Fighters Guild skill line. Last ability to unlock starts off as Trap Beast, morphed to Barb Trap. This goes on the ground, pops underneath the target, whether it can be immobilized or not, you'll still do the damage to the target for 18 seconds, and while the damage persists, you will gain minor force, increasing all critical damage that you do by 10%. So all crit damage is increased. Simple as that. You can, of course, use the Sigic Order version of minor force if you prefer. However, that is going to nuke your Magicka, especially if you're not very good with your rotation, and especially if you're one of those people that thinks you have to start a brand new rotation every single ad. You do not need to do that. That's bad practice. But if you preference it, you can use it, but you may have to heavy attack occasionally, more often than you would like, because it is going to eat your Magicka. This costs stamina for us, so it doesn't affect our overall rotation sustain, and due to our race, which we'll get to in a moment when we get to passives, this actually does work out quite nice for us, and we can stay fairly healthy with our stamina pool due to that. Now, of course, you can change races if you prefer, but we do have a rather nice bonus for this in there. Now, this is very important. Avid Boneyard is stupidly powerful. There's a theme here. We're actually using every single skill from the Gravelord skill line. We've got the ultimate, we've got the skulls, blast bones, pet, mystic siphon, and Avid Boneyard. Avid Boneyard is our main ground AoE on the back bar. So you keep this down, and everything must die inside of it. Now, this will put frost damage on the ground in Area of Effect, which is actually pretty nasty. It's a very high damage Area of Effect damage over time ability. And if there is a corpse on the ground at the time, you actually do 50% more damage from the skill. You can also activate your own synergy and do Area of Effect frost damage as well. And this will damage them and heal you for the damage done. So as long as you're taking your own synergy, you can actually stay alive while doing damage, which is really, really nice. Other people can take the synergy too, but this is pretty damn handy. Now, the trick to this is, of course, you must have a corpse to make it really strong, which is easy in ad pulls, unless you've scooped them all up, of course. But that's why we have this on the bar here and not here. We want to use this first. We use this for leftovers. Blast Bones makes a body. The pet makes a body. Now, a new casted pet, if you haven't cast one already, won't have a corpse ready. This will. When we get into our rotation, this can consume the first Blast Bones. By the time the second or third Blast Bones is consumed, the pet will probably need to be used again anyway, and we'll be on the back bar, ready to use this. We are always guaranteed to have one of these giving us a body to utilize on the back bar with this. If you get it in the right order, you will never fail the extra damage. It's really helpful. We've gone over the Destro ulti a little bit earlier than usual, but make sure you've got that there, or Glacial Colossus. Colossus, if no one else has got major vulnerability. Flame ulti, if it's covered. If it's not covered and there's gaps, do your job and bring this. Now, passives. These are very important. You're going to need every single one of these for this skill line. This will help your recovery, actually. When your Blast Bones, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender dies, or you make them blow up, or they finish, your next Blast Bones, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender is reduced by 50%. So, each time one of these blows up, the next one, or the next one of these, is cheaper. In our rotation, we will be using this, obviously. Then halfway through we'll use it again, which will make it cheaper, and then when it blows up, this will be used. It's a tricky thing to explain, but basically as long as you keep using your pets, your next ones will be cheaper. This increases your crit strike chance against enemies under 25% health by 10% for each Gravelord ability slotted. As you can see, we've got a 50% bonus there. Now, that's different, of course, if we have Meteor on the front bar. That goes down to 40, which is still absolutely mental, because we've got 50% flat out already. We've got 56 in Trials, and you get 40% increase at low health, which will be up to now 96 if you've got all buffs and bonuses. If you have Glacial Colossus on the front, you're guaranteed 100% crit chance. If you don't, then you're still really, really bloody close anyway, with buffs and bonuses applied. So during Execute, if you like, if you just keep doing what you're doing, for having these skills on your bar, 10% per skill, you just get an elevated crit chance. It's absolutely stupid. So that's a very, very helpful passive. You must get that as soon as possible. Just bear in mind, of course, each one of these you take off reduces your crit chance at Execute by 10%. This is very simple. While a Gravelord ability is active, your physical and spell penetration are increased. We have very high pen, both physical and spell. So we don't need a sharpened weapon at all. Increase the damage done with damage over time effects by 15%. So this is damage over time, as is our flame ulti, as is our shoot and star if we choose to use that. Not to mention, of course, our Wall of Elements and our unnerving Avid Boneyard, in fact. And, of course, our heavy attack from our front bar if we choose to heavy attack to get resources back, or just to make a mess of a big AoE pull. We've got lots of damage over time, so this is a very big bonus to our overall damage. Bone Tyrant, this is quite important. Whenever an enemy you are in combat with dies within 28 meters of you, you restore 200 magicka and stamina if a Bone Tyrant ability is slotted. So if you did choose to, for example, you wanted to use, say, Hungry Scythe or even a resistance buff, you want to use this to heals and this maybe for a resistance buff, and you wanted to swap out Inner Light for that, you would benefit from this passive here. If not, you only get it on the back bar because Necrotic Potency is there for that. Reduces the damage you take from damage over time abilities by 15% when you have a Bone Tyrant ability active. So if you did choose to have a resistance buff, regardless of which bar it's on, as long as it's active, or you have Necrotic Potency active, so you've just consumed several corpses, and this health bonus or this heal is ticking over, this does benefit you because you take less damage from damage over time while it's there. Increases your heal and recede for 2% for each one slotted. Again, we only have one on the back bar. You could have one on the front if you wanted as well. That's not going to benefit us a lot, but it's nice to have regardless. And this increases your max health by 1250 just because. Most classes tend to have a resistance bonus. We have a penetration and health bonus. Two different passives from two different skill lines, of course. Now, this skill line is important, but we don't need one of the passives. This one increases your healing done if you have a negative effect on you. This is not required because you need a live and death ability slotted, and we don't have any, unless of course you want the res ultimate, in which case of course you can get this. It increases your crit heal chances. When you consume a corpse once every 16 seconds, you'll get an extra 10 ultimate for free. And while you have a Blastbone, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender active, your Magicka and Stamina recovery is increased by 200. So if we look here, for example, you can see if we pop a potion, we currently have 956 recovery. Make sure we've got a pet active. We're now sitting on 1328. Big difference there. Yes, I know it said 200, but it's not as simple as that. When you start getting actual recovery bonuses, they consider your percentage values and all your multipliers and all that good stuff. So while it says we have 200, we do get a lot more than that because we have extra bonuses in our kit to do that, to push it that bit further. Really nice. Now, Destro passives. These are important. Your shock staff, which you're using on the front bar. Your heavy attacks do 100% damage done to surrounding targets as well. So splash damage. But the amount of damage you do from your heavy does affect everyone else exactly the same, but it doesn't include your crits. So if you say have a 20k crit, the surrounding enemies won't get hit for 20k. It will get hit by the maximum that the base does before the crit is calculated. So if you have loads of penetration bonuses, spell damage bonuses, max magic bonuses, etc, to boost your flat heavy attack, especially during off balance as well, the highest that will go, or the highest it does at the time, is what everything else will get around it, and the main target is the one that can be crit on top. We do have a pen bonus, of course, for Destro's skill ability, so including your light attacks and your heavy attacks. This increases your chance to apply status effects, so burning or concussion for us, and also actually minor maim, because we do have chilled status effect chances because we are using ice damage, of course. Having a lightning staff will increase all area of effect damage you do by 8%, and this is understood by most. They think, mostly people generally think that that means when you have ads. It doesn't. Any skill that is considered to be an area of effect ability will be stronger, even if you only have one target. Now, having a flame staff will increase your single target abilities. So, here are the technicalities to consider in the build. Ricochet Skull is single target. So is your light attack. However, your heavy attack on your lightning staff is area of effect, so that's boosted. This is area of effect, so that's boosted. Your blast bones is area of effect. Your siphon is area of effect. Your ultimate, both ultimates in fact, all three in fact, if you consider Glacial Colossus, are all area of effect. Avid Boneyard, which is also increased by 50% if you consume a corpse, is area of effect. And so is your unstable Wall of Fire. Now yes, the flame staff increases single target damage, but if you put down Wall of Elements, which is area of effect, swap to your front bar, we now have the stronger version of Wall of Elements from the flame staff, but being buffed by the lightning on the front. So, the trick is to get your AoE down and stay on that front bar as much as possible, because that's where you'll get the most damage. So while this one skill, yes, does benefit from single target, the rest of our stuff is all area of effect anyway. So put them down, get the most out of the flame staff for the skills we are using, and get the most out of the lightning staff for everything else. And finally, of course, for the Destro skill line, when you kill an enemy with a destruction staff ability, you restore 3600 magicka. So light attack, heavy attack, wall of elements, Destro royalty, whatever, anything that dies to that will give you magic back. There is a bonus here for the ice staff, but we're not going to go over that today because we're not using one. Now, we are using 7 pieces of light because we've got the extra health anyway, so I'm not really going to go and push my health too far unless I need to. But you can go with 1 piece medium and 1 piece heavy if you prefer. If you do that, you'll get the Undaunted passives. We'll go over that in a moment. But for having all the light pieces, we've got a massive amount of reduction to snare, so we're not that slow. We have reduction to sprint cost, which is quite nice considering we don't have a huge stamp pool. We have increase to mag recovery, which really, really helps us. We have reduction to cost, 14% in fact, which is really good. And we have higher spell resistance. We also have increased crit chance for having 5 pieces, and we have massive penetration for having 5 pieces as well. We're not using medium and heavy, but if you do choose to go 1 medium, 1 heavy, you will have higher flat stats. So technically your damage potential is higher, and your health will be higher, but you do have to realize then that your recovery will of course be down. So that's the trade-off for that. So if you were to have 1 piece medium, I would recommend getting Windwalker, so you've got the extra stam recovery just in case you need it, and reduction to cost, which will get your beast trap down a little bit, and of course athletics, which will increase your movement speed while sprinting and reduce the cost of dodge roll. This is of course a choice. If you're struggling with your sustain, then go 7 light. If you're not struggling, then you can easily go 1 medium, 1 heavy. Again, if you want heavy armor, of course you want to get these first 3 just to give you that nice bonus there, but you don't want these 2 because they require 5. Fighters Guild, of course, you are going to need Intimidating Presence to get the cost down, and of course you are going to want to get Banish the Wicked. Any kills you get will give you 9 ultimate back if they are undead, Daedra, or werewolf, and lots of enemies will be. That's very important. Now, Mage's Guild is fairly important. You are going to want to get this. For having those abilities on your bar, each one of them gives you 2% max magic and recovery back, which is quite nice. This increases the duration of them, so if you are using Shooting Star, it lasts longer. This reduces the cost of the abilities, so Inner Light is not really used by us, but if you do activate it, you will get Empower. And Empower is not just for light attacks anymore, it's for heavy attacks too. Heavy attacks will do 40% more damage for 3 seconds if they are empowered, so activate this first, heavy afterwards. If it's an off-balance situation, you pop this first and hit the target while off-balance, you'll get the off-balance bonus, you'll get your damage over time bonus, you'll get your increased heavy attack from being off-balance, all that good stuff, and you'll get this as well. So it's for opportune moments, but if you have got max Mage's Guild, then you're going to want this. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. Just, you probably won't have this, so you have to use something else anyway. So if you don't have that, get Magicka Controller at least. If you do have Mage's Guild 10, definitely get this. Undaunted is very important, of course. Every single synergy you take, including your own, will give you 4% resources back. Health, stamina, and magicka. Make sure you take every synergy you can see. They will benefit you, plus give you this. Undaunted Metal does give you 2% max resources for health, stamina, and magicka for every type of armor worn. We are currently wearing all light for recovery's sake. However, if you are comfortable with your resources, then you can go 1 medium and 1 heavy, and you will get 6% flat resources across the board, which means while using flat food and one of the trial gear setups, you will actually hit 40k max magicka. However, the choice is yours. We are a high elf. Why is this important? Because when you activate a class ability, you restore 640 Magicka or stamina based on whichever is lowest. The lowest one for us is our stamina pool. So any class ability that costs magic for us will give us stam back. Which means once every 6 seconds when we use a class ability, we get 640, giving us 1,280 back over 12 seconds. In a full rotation, that's almost half the cost of a beast trap. Not far off. So we can help our stam pool regenerate just by doing our rotation as a high elf. Also, while using the channeled ability, we actually take less damage, but we're not really using any channeled abilities at all unless you do a heavy attack. This increases your max magic by 2k, and this increases your flat spell damage by 258. You can use any race you like, but these benefits are very, very nice for us. Just bear in mind what you gain or lose if you change the race, and you might have to tweak your setup slightly depending on which one you choose. This is very important. Medicinal use will make your potions last 30% longer. We are using spell pots, which will give us major sorcery, major prophecy, which we do have on the front bar anyway, and major intellect. Plus it will give us that boost to magicka, so we get that back really quickly. Make sure you keep your potions up 100% of the time. They are consumable buffs. Do not let them run out. If it's grey, you're good. If it's not, pop it. This will make them last 47 seconds if they're crafted potions. The cooldown is 45, so we have 100% uptime on them. If you don't have this, we'll have a 10-second gap every time we take a potion, and it's not as effective. Now we're going to go into the gear. So if you like your dungeons and not too many trials, you are in a safe place because you don't have to do a single trial in the game to get this stuff. However, there is an option to change. Skaven Mage Lightning Staff on the front bar and infused with a weapon and spell damage glyph on the front bar. The reason it's infused because we want to get as much weapon and spell damage out of this as possible. And although precise is very good for this, we don't need the precise because we do have 2 crit bonuses in the set. So, max magicka, spell crit, and when you deal direct damage, any direct damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your spell damage by 516 for 5 seconds, and this can happen once every 5 seconds. So effectively, if you time this very, very well, you can have a very high uptime on this. So the trick is direct damage. Yes, Blast Bones is area of effect, but it's also direct, so if you hit multiple targets with it, one of them is going to make this fire. Plus your skulls, your light attacks, all that good stuff, you can have a very good uptime on this. On the back bar, you want the Maelstrom perfected stuff. You can have the Maelstrom regular stuff. It doesn't make a difference. The only difference is the penetration bonus, but that will only affect you on the back bar. And if you've got max buffs and bonuses applied anyway, so you're hitting pen cap, especially as a Necromancer because we've got the extra bonuses, that 2-piece bonus doesn't make a shit's bit of difference. So, the only thing we're looking at here is the light and heavy attack bonus. We get additional damage to our lights and heavies if the enemies getting hit by them are inside our wall of elements. Wall of elements down, swap bar to the front, keep your light attacks up, they'll take extra damage. Very simple. This is infused with a flame glyph because every single time this glyph is available to be fired, it will fire on its own as long as the damage over time ground base ability, Wall of Elements, is running from our weapon skill line. As long as you keep that up, that glyph will constantly fire. The regular Maelstrom from normal Maelstrom is 150% fine. Don't let anyone tell you any different. We are using Jeff. Of course, I forgot to tell you, Skaven Mage, by the way, is 3 pieces on the jewelry. So 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, and 2 pieces, the staff. Counts as 2. So there's your 5-piece set. You can, of course, have some on the body if you want instead. It's entirely up to you, depending on which pieces you got. But you got to make sure that the staff is on the front bar. If you don't have the Maelstrom staff, you can Skaven Mage both bars. But make sure lightning on the front, flame on the back. Jeff is more of Inferno. This is actually the Daedroth set, which is amazing. This is from Banished Cells. Spawns a Daedroth for 15 seconds, and he does damage to the target. Absolutely amazing. Love it. You only have to do light and heavy attacks to make sure he fires. Massive amount of damage. Use this. It will annoy some tanks, but they can just highlight the target so they can see. Now, you can, of course, change this if you prefer for a little bit less damage, but a lot easier usage because it doesn't quite get in people's way. But you've got Vulcan Scoria. This will give you a pen bonus, and it'll make meteors fire out of the sky every 5 seconds, in fact, as long as you're doing damage over time. Yes, it's an 8% chance, but we've got so much damage over time, it's guaranteed to fire anyway. So Vulcan Scoria is very effective and really nice, especially in ad pools because of the extra pen. But if you want something flat for single target, Jeff all the way. Again, you can have light on the shoulders and the helmet, but if you want to get the Undaunted passives, have 1 medium and 1 heavy. The main set we're using is Kalurian. This is also very, very nice. Spell crit bonus, spell damage bonus, spell crit bonus again. And this is somewhat themed with a Necromancer as well, because you end up with 2 kind of summoned flames above your back, which makes you look really cool. When you deal direct critical damage with a single target attack, you launch a fireball, ice, shock, or disease. Sorry, a fireball, ice, shock, or disease at the target and does almost 20k damage. It actually does more than that with buffs and bonuses applied, and this can happen once every 10 seconds. With it being on the body, we can proc it on the front bar or the back bar. All you've got to do is crit with a single target skill. So any light attack, any of the skulls, you'll be fine. And you're going to crit them at some point. This can be full out controlled because we've got it on both bars. And of course, all of this, except for the Jeff helmet, you can get on normal. So you can get this stuff from normal, you can get Maelstrom Weapon from normal, you can get Kalurians from normal, the whole lot. However, if you want to go that extra mile, and you want to get about 4k DPS more, then of course, you can go with the Perfected Sorcerer Lightning Staff. However, since this set does not have crit on it, you will need to go precise. It's like the same glyph, but you'll need to go precise. This will give you spell damage, minus slayer, max magic again if you have the perfected version, and when dealing direct damage with a single target ability, which is your light attack, you create a fire circle underneath you for 10 seconds, and while standing in it, you will increase your stacks of spell damage up to 520, so 10 stacks maximum, giving you 520 spell damage. Now, Skaven Mage gives you 516, so there's barely anything in it, and Skaven Mage has more burst because it kicks in straight away. But this does carry over, so if you activate it on the front bar and swap bars, it will stay with you as long as you come back to the front bar after 10 seconds maximum. Also, this does have minus slayer, so while it's got more flat on it, just about, this does have easier application, especially in situations where you are moving around a lot, because this is very static. You have to stay in the circle. You can come out of it, but if you don't go back in on time, you'll lose it all. This has got a lot of risk, but it is slightly higher overall. This is much, much easier to use, much, much easier to get, and is more guaranteed. Just remember, of course, you don't double bar this, and it doesn't carry... The buff carries over, but you can't proc it on the back bar. So, it's hit and miss. They're very close. So, while this on the dummy, with buffs and bonuses applied, obviously, because they are situational, there's a lot of stuff on there, but there's also a lot of stuff missing. You're looking at about 82, 83k. If you have the Sorcerer setup, yes, you're looking at 86 to 88, sometimes even pushing towards 90, depending if you get lucky crits or not. But again, in content itself, it's entirely up to you. Some fights are so mobile, you might not ever get your Sorcerer procs anyway. It depends. The choice is yours, however. Full out options there. Go nuts. Pick whichever one suits you the best. Either way, you're way over 80k, so you're not going to struggle with any situations in any content that require any form of damage check. You're actually double what you need anyway. Now, champion points. 72 in Ironclad to reduce the amount of damage you take from direct damage. Hardy and Elemental Defender, both 64 in those to give us a 13% reduction to all other types of damage. Regardless of whether they're flat and direct, they do consider their physical and elemental types. Also, 19% into dot reduction with 51 points into here. 19 points into quick recovery to give us a 5% healing received bonus. 44 into Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. 75 in Tenacity and Arcanus to give us increased recovery and more resources back when we heavy attack. 72 in Tumbling to give us dodge roll reduction, and of course 4 points in Shadow Ward because we've only got those points left, so chuck them in there. You get 1% block reduction, and you also get the Treasure Hunter passive. So if you are going into dungeons and trials or whatever and you're looting treasure chests, then you've got a higher chance of getting better quality gear. 56 in Elfborn to increase our crit damage, and 64 into Elemental Expert to increase our flat damage. None into Spell Erosion, we do not need it. We have so much penetration, don't bother putting any points in here. We do have Arcane Well, however, because we've got 120 points in here, which means if stuff dies, we have a chance to restore Magicka within close proximity of the death. 9 points into Staff Expert to increase our lights and heavies, and 66 points into Master at Arms to increase our direct attacks. Now, although our lights and our skulls count as direct, so does our blast bones. It counts as direct damage, but it is area of effect at the same time, so it benefits nonetheless. 70 points into Thermaturge to increase our damage over time, and 75 points are here specifically so we get this unlocked. So anything that is off balance, we will actually do more damage to. However, yes, you could put 3 points into here to increase your tiny physical penetration to increase your beast trap damage, but you're not really going to notice the damage at all. You could have 72 in here and 3 in here. It was mentioned in the stream recently. It's so small, it's not noticeable. And the way that the game is changing right now, with pen being consolidated along the way, it's not even going to be worth it long term anyway, because it's all going to mean the same thing. So, rotation. Let's keep this nice and simple. All you need to do... We'll go to the dummy, actually, because then we can see stuff. So, all you need to do is cast your pet, because he doesn't need a target anymore. You can have him with you, which is great. Put down your beast trap on your back bar, and then cast Avid Boneyard. Take this energy if you want for the extra damage. Light attack. Wall of Elements. Swap bars. That went a long way. Now, while you're on the front bar, light attack, blast bones. Quite simple. Light attack, skull, twice. Now the blast bones is ready again. So light attack, blast bones. Light attack, skull. As you can see, there's a body on the ground. So light attack, siphon. We'll take it. You guessed it. Light attack, blast bones again. Light, recast the pet, swap bars. So let's do that a bit faster so you can see what that looks like. When you get onto the front bar, light blast bones, light skull, light blast bones, light skull, light siphon, light blast bones, light pet, swap. So to simplify that, it's blast bones, light skill, blast bones. Light skill, blast bones again. Light pet, swap. So blast, skill, blast, skill, blast, pet, swap. That will be written on the website. Don't worry if that's too confusing. Now, the order of the skull and the siphon is entirely up to you. I mean, generally I preference the siphon first before the second skull, but it doesn't really matter as long as you get the two in there. Back bar again, every time you get there. Boneyard, light trap, light wall, swap bars. The reason you don't do it in that order to start with is because your trap is already down. But for the rest of it, it's Boneyard, light beast trap, light wall, swap. We stay on there for a minimal amount of time. Then it's literally light blast, light skull, light blast, light siphon, light skull, light blast, light pet, swap. Boneyard, beast trap, wall, swap, blast, skull, blast, siphon, skull, blast, pet, swap. Rinse, repeat, over and over and over and over and over. If you're going to use your Death Royalty or your Colossus, what you need to do is this. You need to fire this, then your trap, then drop your ultimate, then drop your wall and swap bars. Your bar swaps need to be fairly quick, so make sure that as soon as you hit your wall of elements, you swap bars. And on the front bar, as soon as you cast your pet, you can swap bars. They're both insta-cast abilities. They're both put there on purpose so that you can easily swap with them without getting stuck on any of the two bars when you don't want to be. And that's pretty much it. You never, ever, ever need to change your rotation. The only thing you might have to do sometimes is you might need to weave in a heavy attack occasionally. And if that is the case, and you are Max Mage's Guild, sneak this in first. So then you can have your extra damage from your Empower. Now that looks very low there, but it actually goes very, very high once you get all the buffs and bonuses applied. Again, if you have everything running perfectly, it should look something like this. Nice and easy. And you never change it. Now, if you are doing it properly and you've got your light and heavy weaving really, really precise, your Necromancer should look like he is just waving his hands doing skills. So as you can see, I've got a staff right now. If you get this right, you'll never see the staff on the front bar. You'll only see it when you drop a beast trap. So it looks like this. From range, it looks like this. You can see no staff once I start. There's the staff's gone. Everything I'm doing is just waving my hands around and making everything look awesome. Even when you swap to the back bar, you don't see the staff until the beast trap comes out. Then it's gone again. Just waving his hands around, doing all whizzy stuff. So it's going to take some practice. But now it's time for fashion. So first of all, we are using a Zivkin hat. That's a light hat right there. We are using no motif styles for the body. I mean, technically this is Fang Lair, but the chest, the hands, the belt, the legs, and the feet we changed. We put Dramathra on, but you can't really see those. The whole body pieces are all in that style already. So if you get Colorians on the body, your fashion is done. However, Fang Lair Light is what they are. We're using heavy Daedric shoulders, and we are, of course, using two very different ones, actually. Ice Reach Coven Staff, very witchy, necro-y thing there. And, of course, we're using a New Moon Priest Staff on the back bar, just to kind of necro it up a bit, instead of using the Ebon Shadow on everything. But we all know that Ebon Shadow is the best one. Anyway, the colors we're using, these are interesting for a lot of people. I'll put this on the website as well so you can see the actual screenshot of where everything goes, but we're actually using this color here, which is Thalmor Black. You could, of course, use Legate Black if you prefer. This is for the grayish kind of areas. We're using the Warrior's Steel for the purpley areas, and for all the black areas, we're using the newest dye in the game, which is Void Pitch. All you have to do is get Honor to Spirit Blood achievement to get this. Check out the new DLC to find out what that is. Markarth, by the way, has a new arena, just saying. And this is the darkest color in the game. So if you were trying to get Legate Black before, and it took you forever and ever and ever to get it, of course, because you need Alliance rank level 20, this is much, much easier. Enjoy. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. It does run very smoothly. It's a very fluid spell wielding kind of rotation and setup, but it will take a little bit of practice. But if you can master it, you're going to love it. First of all, thank you all very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. If you are not subscribing on YouTube, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the website xynodegaming.com, and of course, I stream every single night on Twitch, excluding Wednesdays, or if I say otherwise, on Twitter. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for some more build videos for this particular DLC. Bye-bye.